that is the Gender Equality Framework in the European Union. My name is Annalisa Landi. I'm a researcher at Gianni Benzi Farmacologica Research Foundation in Bari, Italy, and I'm also the ethics advisor of a project on rare diseases, the RASIL-1, and a member of the steering group of the European Network of Centers for Pharmacoepidemiology and Pharmacovigilance, the ENCEP1, and co-coordinator of the Ardira Ethics Advisory Group and Ethics, Gender Equality and Diversity Coordinator of the HELIOS section. I'm a pharmacist with a second-level postgraduate master in regulatory science, and I also performed an internship trainee at the Leiden University Medical Center. I'm involved in scientific, ethical, regulatory activities, mainly dedicated to clinical studies, but also to data protection, confidentiality, and patient registries, health data, and the gender issues. The Gianni Benzi Foundation is a not-for-profit scientific research organization with a focus on rare and pediatric diseases with three main focuses. One is the ethics regulatory, the second one is the research management, and the third one is the data science and the IT. And you can find in this slide the summary of the projects in which we are or were involved. So in order to start with my lecture, I will kindly share with you the agenda. So we will start with some key definitions. We will then move to the discrimination and multiple discrimination concepts, to the gender equality principle. I hear some echo. Okay. Now it's okay. Then I will provide you with some statistics, the gender equality in numbers, and we will then move to the focus of the presentation, that is the gender equality framework in the European Union with detailed information, the gender equality plans. And we will end with the relevant ongoing initiatives. So in order to start, I would like to share with you the first definition, international definition of gender that is included in the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence in 2011. The concept of gender was already addressed in several documents, in international documents, but the first definition was included in this one. And in this one, you can see that the gender is defined as the socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that a given society considers appropriate for women or for men. So there are also additional definitions that I would like to share with you, the one from the WHO and the one of the European Institute for Gender Equality. The WHO provides the definition of both sex and gender. The sex is referred to the different biological and physiological characteristics of male and females, including the reproductive organs, the chromosomes, and the hormones, while the gender is more a socially constructed, refers more to the socially constructed characteristics of women and men, such as all the things that the society expects from a woman or a man. So it may vary from society to society and can be changed over time. The WHO also affirms that this concept of gender includes 5 important elements. That is the relational one, the hierarchical one, the historical one, the contextual, and the institutional. And when an individual when an individual does not fit established in gender norms or considerations, they often face stigma, discrimination, and social exclusion. Instead, the definition of the European Institute of Gender Equality is more or less the same, but includes additional information. For example, the sex is defined to the biological as depending from the biological and physiological characteristics of an individual, but these sets of characteristics are not mutually exclusive, since there are individuals that can possess both of them. While the gender refers to the social attributes and opportunities associated with being male or female, but also to the relationship between women and men, and girls and boys, as well as to the relationship between women and those between men. They are for sure context and time specific and may change over time. In this slide, you can find just a wrap-up of what is the distinction between the sex and the gender. The sex is so assigned at the birth, and it is based on biological and characteristics and physical traits, but it is also based on medical and scientific terminology, while the gender is more a social and cultural dimension based on rules and expectation, and may vary across time and context. These terms are often confused and may be shaped by language and context. I wanted also to share with you this clear picture taken from a paper published in the Lancet journal that clearly defined graphically how the sex and the gender differ. So you can find that the sex is biological, so linked to chromosomes, reproductive organs, and hormones, while the gender is culturally defined and is linked to the rules and responsibilities, attributes, and entitlements. We have to consider that the assigned sex is different from the gender identity, that may differ also from the gender expression, and the gender also may differ from the sexual orientation. So you can find in this slide a symbol of this, because the assigned sex is the sex assigned at birth, while the gender identity is how the person feel it himself or herself. So a person internal or individual experience of the gender. The gender expression instead is how the individual is presented to the community. So it is a matter of clothing or of voice, of body language, and so on. And instead, the attraction is the sexual part, the sexual orientation. So you can also find in this slide and in the link that I put in this slide the different types of identity expression attraction that are defined to date, and if you want to go more in depth. I have also included here additional definition that can be useful for you if you want to know more about the topic, but I would like to share with you what I think that is relevant, the acronym, the LGBTQIA+, that is the acronym that is used for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning, intersex, and asexual, and the plus instead stands for all the other sexual orientations that are not covered by the previous terms. Another important definition that I would like to share with you, and also its concept, is the definition of intersectionality. The intersectionality refers to the way in which multiple social identities, not only the gender, but also the race, the ethnicity, the disability, the age, the sexual orientation, intersect and create specific or compounded experience of both discrimination or privilege that cannot be understood by looking at each identity separately. So in the European Union, the intersectionality is also referred to a framework for analyzing how the gender inequality interacts with other factors, such as the ethnicity, the age, the socioeconomic background, and so on, producing so different outcomes for different groups. It is important to note that the intersectional approach helps to make invisible experiences visible by providing a more realistic analysis of power relations and social structures. For example, if we have a young woman may be discriminated because she is young and women. So we have an additive, a multiple additive we have to consider both of the identities in order to have this kind of discrimination. So these differences among the identities that an individual may have may lead to a form of discrimination. The discrimination is one of the most common human rights violations and is prohibited under human rights laws, both at international level and at European and national level. The discrimination occurs when a person is treated less favorably than other people in the same situation, in a comparable situation, only because these people, this individual, belong to or is perceived to belong to a particular group, and the treatment is not justified. There are different types of discrimination that I would like to share with you and are included in this slide. So we can have the direct discrimination when the discrimination is intentional and explicit. We can have also an indirect discrimination when we have, for example, a neutral provision or practice that affect only a particular group in a less favorable way, and the structural discrimination that is embedded in social norms, systems, institutional practice. We have also a new form of discrimination that is not yet fully reflected in laws and the legal practice, but it is already widely accepted, and it refers to the multiple, it is called multiple discrimination, and it is referred to the discrimination happening when or caused by more than one characteristic. And these forms can lead to cumulative disadvantage for the individual and require specific attention. We have to say that the gender equality is a well-recognized principle, and there are different international and European documents addressing this aspect and pushing for the respect of this principle. We have the definition included in the UNESCO document where the gender equality is referred to the equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities of women and men and girls and boys. It is considered a human rights principle, and it is also to be highlighted that the gender equality implies that the interests, needs, and priorities of both women and men should be taken into consideration. also recognizing the diversity of the groups. So it is important to ensure equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal treatment. The access to the same legal protection, education, healthcare, and political participation, equal opportunities in terms of fair chances in employment, career advancement, and decision-making rules, and also equal treatment, freedom from any form of discrimination, stereotypes, or violence. There are for sure benefits when we respect this principle for the society. So we have a stronger economic growth and productivity, healthier, more educated society, and so on. What has been highlighted in different reports is that the countries with greater gender equality have better overall well-being indicators. Now I would like to share with you some numbers, some statistics in the European Union. But before entering into the numbers, I would like to highlight that the major European Union statistics in the research and innovation field are based exclusively on binary gender categories, so in binary classifications, women and men, in their standard reporting for sure, but also in the official data collection. The data are collected using the binary classification. So in this way, non-binary identities are rarely captured in institutional or research workforce data. And it is also to be highlighted that it is the same also for the large databases, for example, Eurostat, and also the databases included in the Commission's research portals. In this slide, you can see some numbers taken from relevant reports related to the research in the European Union. You can find, for example, that only 3.4% of scientists and engineers are women compared to the 5% of men, that only the 26% of women are heads of institutions, or the 34% are board members in the largest European Union listed companies, and only 9% of patent applications come from women. We have also statistics related to the sexual harassment and psychological violence in the research and innovation environment that come from two relevant surveys that have been conducted in the European Union. And the results are that almost 1 in 3 women have experienced sexual harassment at work, and 18% more than one. And almost around two-thirds of the academic staff and students experience gender-based violence, and this can be, of course, in the form of psychological violence or sexual harassment. I would also like to share with you this relevant tool made by the European Commission and called the Gender Equality Index, that includes numbers related to the rate of changes over time in the European Union, but also in the single member states related to different fields, for example, work, money, knowledge, time, power, and so on. And there is also the last report that has been published last year. The first page of this website opens with this sentence: women need to work 15.5 months to earn what men make in a year, according to what is included in the Gender Equality Index. Now to move to our focus, so the gender equality framework in the European Union. In this slide, we have included the key milestones of the history of the gender equality in the European Union, starting from the Treaty of Rome in 1957, where the equal pay principle was bring for the first time to the community, and then we had different directives or rules that were dedicated to the discrimination or to the gender equality in the EU. Of relevance is the European Union Charter of Fundamental Rights, but also the She Figures that was born in 2007, aimed at monitoring gender gaps in research. And I will go more in depth on the last 3 points just now. So the Horizon 2020 included already the gender dimension in as requirement in the research content, but at the time of the Horizon 2020, the gender equality plan was only encouraged. Instead, with the implementation of the Horizon Europe regulation, and the Horizon Europe framework, it became mandatory. Sorry, it became mandatory for all public bodies and research organizations willing to be eligible for funding. We have only also to consider the gender equality strategy that is the current European Union roadmap for the Union of Equality, focusing on ending gender-based violence and structural inequality. In order to move to the Horizon Europe framework, the 3 main levels at which the gender equality is addressed is in this framework are included in this slide. First of all, the gender equality plan has eligibility criterion for the legal entities from both European and non-European countries. The integration of the gender dimension into the research and innovation content as a requirement by default, and also the need to increase the gender balance throughout the program that is included as objective, with the target of 15% of women in Horizon Europe included in boards, experts groups, evaluation committees, and ensuring the gender balance also in the research teams. The gender equality plan that was requested by the Horizon under the Horizon Europe framework is a set of commitments and actions that aim to promote the gender equality in an organization through institutional and cultural changes. It includes measurable objectives, dedicated resources, and monitoring systems. So you need to set up this plan, including all the actions that you foresee to promote the gender equality principle, as well as the indicators to monitor the how the action has been implemented over time, and you need also to provide the dedicated resources to do so, to implement the action and to monitor the indicators. The Horizon Europe framework includes 4 mandatory process-related requirements, among which the fact that the GEP must be a formal document published on the website of the organization, and it should set clear goals and detailed action and measure them over time. So it is important to have dedicated resources to implement the plan and to collect sex or gender disaggregated data with annual reporting based on the indicators. And another mandatory process that has been asked under the Horizon Europe framework is the training. So include awareness raising and training actions on gender equality principle. There is also a detailed paragraph related to the recommended content-related thematic areas that can be of help to structure the gender equality plan. So first of all, the work-life balance and organizational culture, then the gender balance in leadership and decision making, the gender equality in recruitment and career progression, the integration of the gender dimension into research and teaching content, and also the measures against gender-based violence, including the sexual harassment. I have included in this slide the key components of the successful to develop a successful JEP, but for sure there are also additional indication and guideline in the dedicated guideline of the Horizon Europe released by the European Commission. We have for sure to ensure the work-life balance. So flexible working arrangements and parental leave policies. Pay transparency, so regular audits to identify and address pay gaps. Leadership balance in order to push for having women in senior positions and decision-making roles. The prevention measures against any type of violence, and the awareness training, so education on the gender equality principle and on the form of discrimination. What I would like to highlight after providing you with the Horizon Europe framework is that after the implementation of this framework, an impact assessment was conducted on the JEP effectiveness. So you can find different reports, policy briefs, and so on related to the topic. So most of them analyzed how the policy developments on JEP have been implemented at European Union, national and international level, but also at institutional level. And what has been done has been the evaluation of the impact of the gender equality plan in research, and there is also a discussion the outcomes on the changes and so on. So the aim of these impact assessment studies was to analyze the impact of the European Union and national policies in the development and implementation of the gender equality plan as requested by under the Horizon Europe framework, the gender equality in research and innovation, and the quality and efficiencies of research and innovation. We have also to consider that these studies have evaluated different levels, the European Union level, but also the member states level and the research and innovation organization and institutions level. The key findings from the assessment of the impact are more or less summarized in this slide. First of all, the introduction of the JEP as eligibility criterion bring to a significant contribution to efforts to advance the gender equality topic or the gender equality principle in the research and innovation. So it was useful to create a common definition of gender equality plan and to make it a mandatory requirement. We also have the identification of the challenges for the implementation of the gender equality plan, and that also enable the definition of the key factors for the effective implementation of the gender equality plan. It was found that there were also inconsistencies across countries in how the indicators are measured. at what information is collected. So it resulted in a need, in the need to agree on a common set of European Union level indicators. We have also positive outcomes on quality, efficiency, and productivity after the implementation of JEP that bring to increased visibility and prestige of the organization, improved management and teamwork, and enhanced research production and innovation. In this slide, you can find all the positive outcomes as they are included in the reports, but we can only summarize them because I would like to focus on the negative ones. The positive outcomes are, for example, the improved work-life balance, the greater coverage of topic of gender in research contents, the improved knowledge creation, and so on. But what I would like to share with you is the negative outcomes that they found. They found that it is primarily women who take the responsibility for the development and the implementation of the gender equality plans. This places an additional burden on women that may reduce their time for which they are available for their research or academic work, and also a limited focus on other vulnerable groups. What's next? First of all, we need to consider the situation that we had until last year and the new strategic direction. To link these two eras, a new roadmap has been published by the European Commission in March 2025. And this document, this roadmap, sets a long-term vision for advancing women's rights and the gender equality across the European Union. And it is based under the Gender Equality Strategy 2020-2025, but it aims to be implemented in the next Gender Equality Strategy. The roadmap is structured around 8 principles: the freedom from gender-based violence, the highest standards of health, equal pay and economic empowerment, work-life balance and care, equal employment opportunities and adequate working conditions, quality and inclusive education, political participation and equal representation, and institutional mechanisms that deliver on women's rights. This is more or less a political framework for future action that will be implemented into the Gender Equality Strategy 2026-2030. This strategy has been open for consultation until August 2025, and it is planned for publication during the first quarter of this year. The aim is to continue the work done during the previous strategy, and it would like to be focused on a dual approach. Combining the target measures to achieve the gender equality and also the better gender mainstreaming across all European Union policies. It aims to focus also on the intersectionality. In the consultation, the public consultation, there were also information related to the possible initiatives that can be included in the strategies. In the strategy, for example, improving legal framework, awareness raising campaigns, collection and use of gender equality data, reduction in gender-based violence both online and offline, implementing and enforcing existing European Union legislation, and so on. Now I would like to end my presentation with some important initiatives that are ongoing. So first of all, the HELIOS survey on gender equality that we prepared in the framework of the HELIOS cost action with the help of the working group on gender equality and inclusiveness. And this survey aims to collect information on institutional and national practices or plans related to the gender equality and inclusiveness principle. And it is primarily addressed to the gender equality advisor, representative or boards, but in case this rule is not formally established, we also include other profiles that can answer to this survey. The survey is structured in 5 sections. The first one is related to the background information, but we have also gender equality policies, and so you need to include information on the gender equality policies in your country. The practices and monitoring, that is a section more or less dedicated to the gender equality plan and what you collect in terms of data. The fourth section that is related to the inclusive culture and other aspects, and the final remarks where we included the free text boxes in which you can add comments on the challenges and the gaps of the framework. So you can find the link at the QR code in this slide, but maybe I can also ask Sotirula if she can kindly share the link in the chat. And that's it. So we would like to kindly ask you to complete a survey in order to help us in creating this kind of overview of what is being done in the other countries. Another activity that is ongoing that I would like to share with you is an action plan for women in research, innovation and startups. That is a public consultation released by the European Commission. The deadline for comments is the 23rd of February. And in this action plan, the proposed actions are related to the support to the implementation and enforcement of the existing European Union legislation, but also policy measures, financial support for the collection, dissemination of data, and the awareness raising campaigns. And the Commission also invites respondents to submit relevant published or preprint scientific research and analysis and data. So it is if it may be of interest for you. I have also included a background on this that is included in the link of the action plan, but I can skip this. And the request for input has been on specific topics. First of all, the barriers for women, specific challenges limiting access to careers, leadership rules, funding and funding opportunities and so on, but also the reasons for discouraging girls from pushing science, technology, engineering and maths careers, the impact on underrepresentation, how this underrepresentation negatively affects the outcomes and competitiveness in research, innovation and startups, and the topic of intersectionality, so the additional barriers in this case. Then we have also additional requests that are related to the academic freedom and gender research, to the economic aspects, so the investment ecosystem, the role of the European Union and member states, so the need for specific actions to promote these principles, and the importance of the gender-based violence and harassment and the measures against this kind of violence and harassment. The target audience are included in this slide: public authorities, academia, experts, centers responsible for education and research, also those related to business business and finance can answer to the public consultation. So to conclude, I would like to share with you two sentences coming from the speech of the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. So the first one is related to the gender equality. That is a core principle for the European Union, but it is not yet a reality. In business, politics, and society as a whole, we can only reach our full potential if we use all of our talent and diversity. Using only half of the population, half of the ideas, and half of the energy is not good enough. With the gender equality strategy, we are pushing for more and faster progress to promote equality between men and women. And the other one that is related to the science has no passport, gender, ethnicity, or political color. It is one of the most valuable goods. So I would like to thank you, and to thank you also my colleague Sabina, who helped me with the slides. And since I had no time to include the take-home messages, if you be so kind to share with me the take-home messages that you can bring at home after my lecture, it would be really worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Annalisa. Thank you for accepting the invitation and for the thorough and great presentation. I would like to welcome anyone to raise their hand if they have a question. And I would like to start with one. Is there a reasoning why the EU chooses to use the binary way to measure the impact of the different gender equality plans? And if so, what about the intersex? Because it's biologically defined as a different gender, I guess. Or what does EU stands about that? I don't know.
Yes, what I have found is that the European Union uses the binary classification in its reports and statistics because most of the data at this stage they found are collected with the binary classification. So we need to modify how we collect the data about gender in our own institutions in order to let the European Union move from a binary classification to a non-binary classification.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, this is something also that we found in the cost action. When you see the applications that we received, there is in the gender part only an information related to the male or female, if I remember well, male or female, or woman and men, but there is not the non-binary classification.
Indeed, it's something that we actually mentioned to the cost association as well, that the system perhaps needs to change. Marco Rus, Marco, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Annalisa, for a wonderful presentation, lots of information. I have a question, as you may expect from a fair person like me. So you showed in the beginning, definitions of sex and gender. And I was wondering if from the EU, if there is a recommended reference ontology for these terms, or if that is, if not, if that would be an area where maybe we should actually develop some recommendations.
I don't know, but I need to check. I think no, because I did not found any ontology about this topic, but I can check and be back to you.
Yeah. And just for people here, for some background, so in the EJP and in EDRA, we have in our semantic model referred to NCIT, but if you look this up now on this topic, you will find that it has been compromised by the US administration. So there's that I'm not sure if that's a good reference anymore. And what I always have the problem with definitions, and when I studied biology with taxonomy, is even for the biological one, it's multiple viewpoints that seem to be merged, and that always leads to problems and then ambiguity that you can actually, in an ontology, you can nicely work it out. And I think work has been done on this. but maybe not a recommendation. So maybe that's something we can work on. Thanks, Annalisa.
Thank you, Marco.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you, Marco, for the great question, actually.
And if you want to, feel free to share your take-home message in the chat so I can include them in my presentation before sharing it with all of you. Thank you.
Well, it seems that we don't have any other questions. I would like to thank everyone that attended this webinar. Thank you, Annalisa, for the great presentation. And I just would like to quickly share that on 25th of February, we're going to have our next webinar. I'm going to share quickly my screen, which will be Joanna Boreco Pinto. She will present the Swiss transplant cohort study, the application they created, a little bit a tour of the project, and project management insights from the project. Again, thank you, Annalisa, very much for this talk. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us directly, and we'll be happy to see you, everyone, again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Have a good day, everyone.
Have a nice day.
Bye. Nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you.